Today we're talking about a song. Not just any song, but a piece of music so famously depressing it was rumored to have driven people to their deaths. It sounds like the plot of a horror movie, but the story is very real, and it all started in 1933 with a struggling Hungarian pianist named Rezső Seres. One day, he sat at his piano and poured all his despair into a haunting melody, calling it Szomorú Vasárnap, which translates to Sad Sunday. When he initially tried to get it published, producers literally told him it was just too depressing. The song eventually found a home when a poet, Laszlo Javor, wrote lyrics for it, making it even darker. The question we're exploring is where the story of a sad song ends and the myth of a musical murderer begins. Born in 1889, Rezső Seres grew up in the crushing poverty of Budapest, Hungary. Without ever taking a formal lesson, he taught himself music through sheer talent and determination. Life was tough from the start, but he still managed to compose dozens of songs, from upbeat folk tunes to, ironically, an anthem for the Communist Party. When an injury crippled one of his hands, he didn't give up. He retaught himself to play using only the other hand, proving just how stubbornly dedicated he was to music. By the early 1930s, he was scraping by, playing piano in various places, including theaters and circuses. In late 1932, it was a pretty bad time to be alive. Europe was in a full-blown economic freefall. Seres, now living in Paris, struggling financially, heartbroken, and weighed down by the despair of the Great Depression, poured his feelings into a mournful piano piece he first called "The World is Ending." His original lyrics were a lament about humanity's cruelty and the hopelessness of the world. Publishers initially rejected it for being too grim, but later, Hungarian poet Laszlo Javor rewrote the lyrics into a tragic love story about a man who wants to join his dead lover in death. This latter set of lyrics, with lines like, "My heart and I have decided to end it all," in translation, became the famous version as we all know now, Gloomy Sunday. Getting Gloomy Sunday published was a whole other battle. When the composers started shopping it around to music publishers in Budapest, the doors slammed shut fast. Dealers were genuinely disturbed by it. They described the feeling of the song as terrible, and they wanted nothing to do with it. One publisher put it bluntly, "I don't think it would do anyone any good to hear a song like that." Essentially, they thought it was dangerous. But finally, in late 1933, they found someone willing to take the risk. The sheet music hit the stands with Laszlo Javor's bleak lyrics attached. Musically, it's not a tune you tap your feet to. It's a slow, mournful funeral march in a minor key. The lyrics were even darker. The singer is basically planning their own death to rejoin a lost lover, praying that angels have no thoughts of ever returning you, making it clear this is a final goodbye. Keep in mind, this was completely out of step with everything else at the time. Pop music in the early 30s was all about escapism, upbeat tunes to help people forget the Great Depression. This song did the exact opposite. It acknowledged despair and wrapped itself in it. The story of Gloomy Sunday all started with one creepy rumor. Its second publisher supposedly killed himself after hearing it. From there, sensationalism took over. In March 1936, Time magazine ran a piece about a string of suicides in Hungary that were supposedly tied to the song. Apparently, one guy left a suicide note quoting the lyrics. Some young lovers reportedly shot themselves while it played, and others were found drowned in the Danube with the sheet music. And it wasn't just in Hungary. Even abroad, the legend took off, such as reports of suicides and attempts in New York and London that they linked to the tune. Almost immediately, rumors began to spread that Gloomy Sunday was cursed. Newspapers began tying it to real tragedies, connecting the song to every bad thing that happened. People across Hungary whispered that the song could drive you straight into madness. By the late 1930s, newspapers were blaming the tune for dozens, sometimes hundreds, of suicides. Officially, only about 19 cases are on record, but those numbers mix fact with pure gossip. And here's the part people usually forget. Hungary in the 1930s was already a nightmare. Famine, poverty, and one of the world's highest suicide rates. The song was only the soundtrack to a really dark time. World War II spread Gloomy Sunday far and wide. In England and America, record labels smelled a hit. The first English version popped up in 1936, thanks to big band leader Hal Kemp. Then Paul Robeson gave it a go. But it was Billie Holiday in 1941 who really put the song on the map. Her smoky, jazzy take, especially that chilling line, "My heart and I have decided to end it all," locked in the song's reputation. On 178 RPM record, it even carried the subtitle, Hungarian Suicide Song. Yep, they really leaned into the creep factor. The song even got the BBC worried. They thought the lyrics might tank wartime morale, so Billie's version got banned, but instrumentals were okay. In the US, some radio DJs and nightclub owners steered clear too, but there was never a nationwide ban. Still, just calling it a forbidden suicide song made it even more infamous as it spread around the world. Regu Saris was known to be a melancholic man, and he once confessed that the fame of Gloomy Sunday only increased his despair. During World War II, he was imprisoned in a Nazi labor camp in Hungary, one of the countless victims of the war. He miraculously survived and, afterward, returned to Budapest, continuing to play music at places like the modest, bohemian Kispipa restaurant, trying to slowly rebuild his life. Despite surviving so much, Saris battled depression for decades. He was haunted by the fear that he'd never be able to write another hit, that this one sad song was all he'd ever be known for. In 1968, he tragically took his own life. Now let's pause and ask, can a song really drive someone to death? Psychologists say Gloomy Sunday didn't have some magical power. It just sparked exactly the kind of mass storytelling we see with something called the Werther effect. In Saris's case, all the media hype and rumors probably primed the vulnerable people. Someone who is deeply depressed might latch onto the song's lyrics as a parting message, and newspapers would happily link any sad tragedy back to the song. Honestly, Hungary in the 1930s was already a rough place. People were starving, scared by the war and regime change, and had almost no mental health support. In a situation like that, any sad event, even a gloomy song on the radio, could be blown up in people's minds as a trigger. Humans just love finding patterns in stories, and that song made the perfect scapegoat. In the end, Gloomy Sunday sticks around as a beautiful ballad. The eerie and heartbreaking lyrics are real, and lots of people still find it deeply moving. But the whole suicide curse thing, that's mostly a tale about how humans love drama and how misinformation spreads. Even after decades of creepy folklore, there's not a single shred of proof that the song literally drove anyone to their death. If you're curious to hear Gloomy Sunday for yourself, you can find it on pretty much any music platform or even in old-school vinyl collections. And just remember, it's a piece of history, not some mystical trigger, so feel free to experience it safely. See you next time.